Welcome back to the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. My name is Rami Lavi. Across from me, that's Vince Damato, and today we're going to talk about some fun things in baseball. First, Vince, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Rami. I've been watching a lot of baseball. Well, actually, no, the Cubs got killed yesterday. I don't know if you saw that game. That was ugly. That one really hurt my baseball spirit. But they've been hot. I think they won four in a row before that. They swept the Astros. So I've been okay. I got to see a Texas Rangers game earlier this week in Texas, so that was fun. Overall, I'm doing great. Just loving where the season's at so far.
Never been to a Texas Rangers game in Texas. What's that ballpark like?
It is. So Adolis Garcia hit a 2-run home run and the place went nuts. I wasn't expecting they do fireworks after the home run, and it was
awesome.
indoors. It was awesome. It was really cool. So I wish they had the stadium open, but no, it was a fun environment. Place they love their Texas Rangers, obviously. So yeah, it was a good time.
So I'm currently in not freezing, but very rainy Detroit, Michigan. The NFL draft was this weekend here. And then also I was going to go to the Tiger game today, but then the Knicks are playing a playoff game today, so I'm going to stay home and watch the playoff game. So that's that. Speaking of, so you mentioned two teams there. I could take this in either direction. We could talk about the Astros for a second. How much do they suck? Like, is something wrong with the Astros? Are the Astros broken? Are they just bad? Like, is this the end of the? Because I don't want the Astros dynasty to end this way. I need the Yankees to beat them in the playoffs for me to get over all my like angst of 2015, 2017, 2019, 2022. Like, I need the Yankees to beat a dominant Astros team. I can't just have them beat the limping Astros team at the end of their dynasty in the playoffs. I need the Yankees to like get that monkey off their back. Are we never going to have that? Is this Astros team just cooked?
I don't know if they're cooked, but they're certainly not giving any hint that they're even kind of coming back. I mean, it's just been underperformance kind of across the board. They've had a couple injuries, like Christian Javier's out, and Bregman has not been anything that we've expected from him. So I don't know. I'm in the camp of it's a long season and it just takes 2 weeks for them to get hot. And once they're hot, they're going to start rolling. So I'm not counting them out. I think they're, the best of the worst teams right now. But it certainly doesn't look good. And they're, other teams have struggled, but their division's still no cakewalk with Texas and Houston in there, or Seattle in there as well, who have both been struggling too. So it's kind of a weird year for that division. So that being said, I think the fact that they don't have anyone running away with it, right? If they had the Braves who were, dominating, or the Dodgers, like some of these teams who are kind of well ahead in their division, still single digit loss column, like that's when it'd be like, okay, but all three of those powerhouse teams in the division are struggling. So I think there's still a pretty clear path for them to make some run.
You mentioned the Cubs. Your boy Adbert Alzolay officially no longer the closer.
Yeah.
So we talked about this. We speculated about this for a couple of weeks. And this is a big fantasy headline. I don't know how big of a headline it is in Chicago for the Cubs, but I mean, as far as fantasy baseball goes, this is a guy who is projected to be one of the top closers. And if you're in a closer league, you have to pick him up. Now I don't even know who you pick up in Chicago because it's kind of going to be closer by committee. We kind of saw this coming. It happened, right?
Yeah. If you're in a deeper league, you need a guy. Yency Almonte is one. Mark Leiter Jr., I mean, he's kind of been around and he's been solid for a long time. So I think, they've both seen opportunities and they're holding down that back end. I imagine Alzolay will get a chance at some point later in the year, but yeah, he hasn't shown anything. And he was a huge name in Chicago, right? Like last year when he took over the role, he was dominant. He like led the major leagues in saves for a good portion of that year last year. So I think Cubs fans kind of saw a little bit of this coming, but I don't think we saw it to this extent. So it's been kind of tough because he's such a fun guy to watch when he's on and he's hyped. Like we love watching it. And it's been a little tough. It's been tough for Cubs fans.
And tough for fantasy owners who had him. And, saves are hard to come by. And now you just lost another one that was kind of supposed to be a quote unquote sure thing, whatever that means. Another guy who's never a sure thing, and I actually wrote this headline for last week, but we never got to it. What he was playing so well after all the heat he took early in the year was Anthony Rendon. And then he pulls his hammy and he says, quote, "It's concerning." So it doesn't sound like he's rushing back from that anytime soon. How typical is that? Finally, he gets going for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, has a hot stretch, and then all of a sudden, hammy, boom, see ya.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That again just continues. You get a little bit of a glimpse of what it's like, and then it's gone.
What he
Like,
can be as Anthony Rendon.
yeah, and that's why people forget, like, they paid him a lot of money for a reason. Like, there's a good
This dude
ball
was an
player
MVP.
somewhere in there, yes. And it feels like it's 25 years ago that was the case.
I actually have a great picture of it was 2019. It was during the NLDS. I was sitting right on top of the Dodgers dugout, and I took a great picture of Anthony Rendon standing next to Cody Bellinger. And if you remember, those were two finalists for the MVP that year in 2019. They're standing next to each other on top of like at third base, right? On the third base side in Dodgers Park during the NLDS, just talking to each other. It was a really cool picture.
Yeah.
And to think about those two guys, I mean, now, right? Because Bellinger's hurt too now, right?
Yeah, Bellinger's hurt. The whole Cubs, just Bellinger, Suzuki, Hap had a few days, Steele. Yeah, they've been kind of banged up. And actually, I do want to bring up one other thing too, because it's something we won't touch on, but is also important for fantasy owners. What do you do with Corbin Carroll, right? Like, talk about a guy who's struggling, who people were expecting him to be an anchor, and I've seen a lot of concern about the shoulder. I don't know if you've seen some of his numbers since his shoulder injury last year, but
Yep.
a good comparison, and I think this rings true because shoulders can be kind of funky, is Cody Bellinger. Like,
Yep.
it's taken him years to kind of get over that shoulder injury, and I'm not saying that that's going to be the case with Corbin Carroll, but it certainly could be lingering because, I mean, he's finally dropped down in the batting order, which is that's extremely concerning. So it shows that the Diamondbacks are seeing it as well. I don't really know what you do with him. If you drafted him as a top guy, it's almost like one of those, you kind of just have to go down with the ship. And I hate saying that, but it's like no matter what you trade, trying to trade someone like him away, you're not going to get the value that he's probably worth. And you almost just have to try to ride it out. And if you lose the season because Corbin Carroll, your number 5 or whatever overall pick, top 5 overall pick, isn't even a top 200 player, that just happens. So that's been kind of tough for me.
That's the thing. Like, I remember last year, and I've brought this up before on the show, but what was I supposed to do about Sandy Alcantara, right? It was like he's supposed to be one of my best pitcher, and he's just not, and there's really nothing I can do about it because you just have to hope he gets hot. And with Corbin Carroll, you could say maybe it's a little bit of a sophomore slump, people getting used to him, things like that. So hopefully he breaks out of it. With a position player, it's much easier to bet on, hey, he'll just turn it around. Like, I mean, think about Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is probably supposed to be an anchor of your team. And it's not like he's hurt. We're used to, if Aaron Judge is disappointing, it's because he's hurt.
Yeah.
No, he's batting 180. You know what I mean? That's frustrating. And by the way, that hat is so dope. You bought that at the stadium just now?
No, I bought it at have you heard of a place called Shields?
No.
I had never heard. It's like a Dick's Sporting Goods, but it's like on steroid. Like, it's huge, and there's so much stuff.
Is it a Texas thing? Is it a West Coast thing?
I think it's a West Coast Texas thing. I again was just visiting, or I was out there for work. So, but yeah, they had like almost every alternative or City Connect jerseys and hats.
Oh, that's cool.
From every team. It was huge, the amount of stuff that they had.
Did you see the Mets helmets? It's like the Mac
I do
Gray,
like those.
And it has
the bridge.
Everything's like popping off of it. Yeah,
I
the
thought
bridge
that was
or
pretty
whatever.
cool.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Speaking of that division, the Phillies got hot. So usually they wait till later in the season, but maybe it's NFL draft, which I know Philly fans are fired up for. The Sixers are in the playoffs. I know Philly's fired up for. Maybe they just felt they were feeling the Philly love. I don't know if have you been to Philly?
Never. No.
So they all play like within like a couple of couple of 100 yards.
I didn't know that. Sure.
And it's a great the Comcast zone or whatever, which is right there, which like is just basically a bunch of sports bars in like one big room where and it's in between like the parking lots for all the arenas and stadiums. Sure. It's sick. And like if there's a game, like a football game going on at the same time as a September baseball game or whatever on a Sunday, stuff like that, it's just a great place to hang out. You could do the doubleheader so easily because you could walk, if today you're going to the Phillies game, well, I guess today wouldn't work because I think the Phillies, assuming they're playing at 1 o'clock. But let's say the Sixers game was the night game tonight. It happens to be a day game. You could
Sure.
do the Phillies game and then go straight, go to the bar, go to the Sixers game afterwards. So maybe they're feeling the vibe of the city because that whole team is hot. And a little foreshadowing, I got a little something for you later. But the Phillies, 8 of their last 10, 3 in a row. I think they had a 5-game winning streak before losing a game in there. So really, I guess 8 of their last 9. They're doing pretty well. Hot team in baseball. By the way, the other team that's really hot is the Guardians. So 2 of the hottest
Yeah.
teams in baseball right now.
Yeah. Well, you better not steal mine because I got one from the Phillies a little bit later. So
We might have the same. I'm sure
maybe
we have the same one
I think we
because
do.